Hey guys, we're going to be making resin ghosts today. You're going to need a plate with a large flat surface and some saran wrap. I suggest using a Reynolds wrap because it's a little bit more durable, and we're going to be pouring resin on top of this and then lifting it up by the plastic wrap and moving it. So you just want to start off by surrounding the entire plate with the plastic wrap. That way no resin gets on the plate, because if it gets stuck, it's going to be an issue when you lift it. I'm using iridescent beads here to outline the edge. You can use pebbles or rocks. Try not to use anything too sharp because it's a bit of a hazard when you're trying to remove the plastic wrap. So I'm aligning my beads here, and I'm gonna use this as a barrier, and I'm gonna pour the resin in the middle of the plate. So I'm gonna be making candy corn inspired ghost. I'm gonna start off with pouring down the outer edge here. You want to make sure the resin is touching the beads because, again, those beads are going to be used as a barrier. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that later. So once I'm done with my design, I'm going to let the resin start to cure. Normally it takes about an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours. It really depends on what you're putting in the resin, how hot or cold your working area is, and how much resin you're putting in the plate. So all three of these factors really affect how the resin cures. This is why you want to make sure that you're putting just a thin layer of resin, just reaching the edge of the beads. If you put too much in, the middle will start to cure faster than the edges, and then when you go to move your ghost onto your model, you won't be able to catch the head of the ghost because it's going to be cured, and it's going to be like pretty much a giant circle, and you won't be able to get your ghost that way.
Alright, so I've been checking on it periodically, and it's been about an hour and 15, and let's see if it's ready to be moved. So it is no longer in the liquid stage, it's starting to cure nicely. Middle is still nice and pliable, so I'm gonna move it on over. We have our model with the little plastic ball at the top. You can use styrofoam, bouncy ball, whatever works. Just want to tape it to the top of a little mini cup, and that will be your model. So let's see. Pull it up from the edges, and we're just gonna sit it nice on top. Oh, that looks awesome. You just want to make sure you're sitting it right on the middle too, because you want it to be even with the drapery. Just play around with it. That looks awesome. I think we might have my new favorite, candy corn ghost. Now, as you let it sit, you see it starts to fold more organically. You're getting that cool drapery effect. The color gradient is awesome on this. Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit for about 12 hours until it's hard enough to be removed from the plastic in the model. So it's still curing, but I just wanted to show you an example of the purpose for the beads. You see how the resin is starting to pool over them? Without that beaded barrier, it would just slide right off onto the table. So this is why you want to create a barrier. Also why you want to make sure you're pulling it off at the right time. I think this was still a good time to pull it off, but if I had gone, 20 minutes earlier, that would have been dripping all the way down to the table. So that's a good indicator to see how far along your resin is in the curing process. I also have like this one over here. I mean, you might like the effect. I do when it's very small, but I've had ghosts where I transferred it way too fast and the top becomes very fragile and see-through, and then you have this big gloppy mess on the table here, and it just makes it more fragile when you're shipping, and it kind of ruins the shape of the ghost, I think. So it's just a good example of some of the issues you can come across when you're doing this. So it's been about 4 hours since I placed them on the models, and I just want to show you the example of that pooling. So I guess I pulled it off a little too early. I mean, these are still great ghosts. They still have the shape. But as you can see, like this area over here where the plastic is folding it's gonna be clear. I mean, when you put a battery operated tea light under it, it'll give it a really cool effect, but I am a bit of a perfectionist and I don't want that. So I'm gonna redo them again and try and make it better. Again, could still sell them like this. They still make great decorations. I want it to be a little bit thicker, so it's still a win. But I would rate it about a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. So let's see if I can get a batch going that's a 10 out of 10.
Okay, since the last batch came out a little runny, I'm gonna do another one and let it sit for a little bit longer. I'm also gonna put a little less white in the middle because as it was forming, the white kind of just took over the ghost. So I'm gonna put a little bit. And we're gonna let that cure for a little bit longer than the last batch, so about an hour and a half. But I'm gonna check on it every 20 minutes. So let's see how that one comes out.
They've been sitting for about an hour. It's definitely still in its liquidy form. See how it's still moving. So it's not ready to be moved, but look how cool the color spreads out. And, you know, the resin pools in the middle, so it made the white a lot smaller, but I think when we transfer that to the ghost, it's gonna start to spread. As you can tell from these guys, I put very little white in, but they pretty much just took over the whole ghost because it was the middle, and now the edges are dripping off. So hopefully with this guy here, it'll have like a perfect amount of white and it'll drip off just the same way as a candy corn layer would. So I'm gonna give it another 25 minutes and check in on it and see if it's ready to be moved. Alright, so it's been about an hour and 45 minutes, 20 minutes later than the last batch that I just did. So as you can see, there's kind of a difference when I go to pull it up. It's still pliable, but it's not pooling as much, it's not moving around as much. So this one is ready to be transferred. I'm gonna get my model out, I'm gonna transfer it. And I'm just gonna put that white part right in the middle. There we go. And now what I'm hoping here is, since this white part is being pulled down, this is the thickest, hopefully the white will come down a little bit and give me that candy corn effect that I'm looking for. As you can see, it's draping nicely. It's nice and even. We'll check in to make sure there's no pooling. Okay, so it's been 12 hours. I'm gonna take the plastic wrap off and get my little design going for the face. So as I'm removing the plastic wrap, I'm kind of realizing that the first batch came out better than the second, even though it has a lot of spillage and the white kind of just took over most of the ghost. I kind of like it better than the second batch because the white top didn't melt down the sides at all, so it kind of reminds me like of a little clown, but I'm still gonna market it as candy corn. So yeah, I mean, it depends on the style that you like better. If I were to remake them again, I would put a little bit more white and transfer it maybe just a little earlier. The shape is perfect, it's just, I don't know, they look like little clowns to me. Not exactly what I wanted, but still a success. I also use strictly Moss Epoxies tabletop resin for this because I like the cure time and I've kind of gotten it down to a science. If I had to give you an exact time with the tabletop, I would say it's usually about 2 hours, an hour and a half to transfer it. Again, it really just depends on the temperature you're working in, how much resin you're using, and also if you're putting paint or pigment into the resin. As you know, it affects how the resin cures. So overall, I would say about an hour and 45 minutes to be safe. But again, you want to make sure you're checking it every 20 minutes because 20 minutes can make or break a ghost. But if you guys do wind up making them, please tag me. I'd love to see what colors you use and how your ghosts come out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it.